The year is to 14 BC. The Mediterranean world is burning. In Italy, Roman armies are reeling from one of the greatest disasters in their history. Tens of thousands of Roman soldiers lie dead on the fields of Cannae. The mighty republic, once thought invincible, has been brought to the brink of collapse. Far to the east, across the Adriatic Sea, a young king watches closely. He sees Rome bleeding, he sees opportunity, and he believes the time has come to restore the glory of Macedonia. His name is Philip V. He is the heir to the kingdom once ruled by Alexander the Great. And he is about to make a decision that will change the course of history forever. A decision that will bring Rome and Macedonia onto a collision course. A collision that will ultimately decide who will rule the ancient world. This is the story of how the Macedonian Wars began. For nearly a century after the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, his empire had been divided among rival successors. The dream of a united empire stretching from Greece to India had vanished. In its place stood powerful kingdoms. Egypt was ruled by the Ptolemies. Asia was dominated by the Seleucids, and Macedonia remained under the control of the Antigonid dynasty. Although diminished from the days of Alexander, Macedonia was still one of the strongest military powers in the eastern Mediterranean. Its kings commanded armies trained in the traditions of Philip II and Alexander. Its famous phalanxes still marched beneath the Macedonian sun. Its nobles still dreamed of conquest. And among those dreamers was a young king determined to restore Macedonia's greatness. Philip V. Philip V became king of Macedon while still a teenager. He inherited a kingdom surrounded by rivals and threatened by enemies. Yet Philip possessed qualities that immediately distinguished him from many rulers of his age. He was intelligent, ambitious, energetic, and above all, impatient. Ancient historians described him as charismatic and courageous. He could inspire loyalty among his soldiers and confidence among his allies. But he also possessed a dangerous trait. He wanted glory, not merely stability, not merely survival, glory. He admired Alexander, he admired conquest, and he wanted to be remembered as more than just another Macedonian king. As Philip expanded his influence across Greece, many began to wonder whether a new age of Macedonian dominance was emerging. But events unfolding far to the west would soon shape his destiny. Into 18 BC, a Carthaginian general named Hannibal Barca launched one of the most daring military campaigns in history. Crossing the Alps with an army and war elephants, Hannibal invaded Italy itself. Over the next several years, Roman armies suffered devastating defeats. The Treatia, Lake Trasimene, and finally, Cannae. The defeat at Cannae sent shockwaves throughout the Mediterranean. Entire Roman armies had been annihilated. Allies began abandoning Rome, enemies sensed weakness. Many believed the Republic was finished. News of these disasters traveled eastward. Eventually, they reached the royal court of Philip V. The Macedonian king watched carefully. If Rome fell, the balance of power across the Mediterranean would change forever, and Philip intended to be ready. Philip saw something that many rulers see during times of crisis: opportunity. Rome was occupied. Rome was vulnerable. Rome was fighting for survival. If Macedonia moved now, there might never be a better moment. At first, Philip focused his attention on expanding Macedonian influence throughout the Greek world. But soon, a far more ambitious idea began to take shape. What if he could expand westward? What if Macedonia could establish power along the Adriatic coast? What if Rome's weakness could become Macedonia's gain? These questions became impossible to ignore. Then came the moment that changed everything. Somewhere amid the chaos of the Second Punic War, Philip V reached out to the man terrifying Rome. Hannibal Barca. The two powers negotiated an alliance. Its purpose was simple. If Hannibal defeated Rome in Italy, Macedonia would share in the spoils. If Rome collapsed, Philip would expand Macedonian influence across the Adriatic. For Hannibal, the alliance offered the possibility of opening a second front against Rome. For Philip, it seemed like a gamble worth taking. But there was one problem. Rome discovered the plan. When Roman leaders learned of Philip's agreement with Hannibal, alarm spread throughout the Senate. They could not allow Macedonia to strengthen Carthage's position. Nor could they allow a powerful Greek kingdom to expand unchecked. Even while fighting for survival against Hannibal, Rome prepared to respond. The stage was now set. The Roman Republic was exhausted. Its armies were stretched thin. Its resources were under enormous strain. Most governments would have focused solely on the immediate threat. Rome did not. The Senate understood something crucial. A threat ignored today often becomes a catastrophe tomorrow. Rather than waiting for Philip to act, Rome decided to confront the problem immediately. Roman diplomats crossed the Adriatic. Alliances were forged. Greek city-states wary of Macedonian expansion found a willing partner in Rome. Slowly, a coalition began to form. And as the network tightened around Philip, the young king found himself facing a challenge he had not anticipated. Rome was wounded, but Rome was not dying. Throughout Greece, tension continued to rise. Messengers traveled between cities. Alliances shifted. Armies mobilized. Kings calculated risks. Generals prepared campaigns. Neither Rome nor Macedonia fully understood what lay ahead. To many observers, the coming conflict appeared minor compared to the massive struggle between Rome and Carthage. But history often hides its greatest turning points behind seemingly small beginnings. The First Macedonian War would not produce a decisive victor. It would not destroy kingdoms. It would not immediately reshape the Mediterranean. Yet it would begin a rivalry that would last for generations. A rivalry that would end with the destruction of Macedonian independence. A rivalry that would transform Rome from a Mediterranean republic into the undisputed master of the Greek world. As Philip V gazed westward across the Adriatic Sea, he believed he was exploiting Rome's moment of weakness. He believed Macedonia could rise while Rome struggled to survive. He believed history was offering him an opportunity. What he could not know was that he had just awakened a power unlike any the Greek world had ever faced. A power that never forgot an enemy, a power that never accepted a rival. A power destined to dominate the ancient world. The First Macedonian War, the opening chapter in a struggle that would decide the fate of Alexander's legacy. The Roman Republic is fighting for its life. In Italy, Hannibal Barca continues to roam the countryside, undefeated. Roman legions have been shattered. Entire provinces have changed sides. Every available soldier is desperately needed to defend the Republic. Yet hundreds of miles away, another enemy is quietly making his move. King Philip V of Macedon has begun assembling ships. His soldiers march toward the Adriatic coast. His ambassadors travel across Greece, promising allies, wealth, and power. He believes Rome is too distracted to stop him. For the first time since Alexander the Great united Macedonia, its king sees an opportunity to expand westward. But Philip has underestimated one thing. Rome may be wounded, but Rome never ignores a threat. Soon, the Republic will do something extraordinary. While fighting the greatest general in history in Italy, it will open an entirely new war across the Adriatic Sea. This is the story of the First Macedonian War, the conflict that marked Rome's first major military intervention in the Greek world. Philip V was no longer content ruling only Macedonia. His kingdom possessed disciplined soldiers, experienced commanders, and one of the finest military traditions in the ancient world. Ever since the death of Alexander the Great, Macedonia had struggled to maintain its dominance over Greece. Now Philip believed he could restore that lost prestige. The collapse of Roman authority after Cannae appeared to present the perfect opportunity. If Rome fell, no one would be able to challenge Macedonian influence across the Adriatic. The ports of Illyria could become Macedonian. Greek city-states might once again unite beneath Macedon's leadership. And perhaps, Philip could become the greatest Macedonian king since Alexander himself. But dreams alone would not build an empire. He needed allies. Across Italy, Hannibal continued his relentless campaign against Rome. Although separated by hundreds of kilometers, Philip and Hannibal shared the same enemy. Messengers secretly crossed the sea. Negotiations followed. Eventually, an agreement was reached. If Hannibal defeated Rome, Philip would seize Roman territory across the Adriatic. The alliance looked formidable on paper. Rome would now face enemies from both east and west, but fortune intervened. Roman patrol ships intercepted the Macedonian envoys carrying copies of the treaty. The secret alliance was exposed before Philip could fully implement his plans. Within days, the Roman Senate understood exactly what was happening. Another enemy had entered the war. Many expected Rome to ignore Macedonia. After all, Hannibal still occupied much of southern Italy. The Republic had already suffered unimaginable losses. Every coin mattered. Every legion mattered. Opening another front seemed almost suicidal. Yet Rome had developed a habit that would eventually make it master of the Mediterranean. It preferred to confront dangers before they became disasters. Instead of waiting for Philip to invade Italy, Rome decided to carry the war to him. But the Republic lacked one thing: time. It could not spare another massive army. So Roman leaders chose a different strategy. If they could not defeat Philip alone, they would ensure Philip never fought alone either. Roman diplomats spread across Greece like pieces moving across a chessboard. They visited kings, city councils, military commanders. Old enemies of Macedonia suddenly found Rome willing to listen. Among the most important was the Aetolian League. For decades, the Aetolians had resisted Macedonian influence. Now they found themselves sharing a common objective with Rome. Together they forged an alliance. Soon Sparta, Hellas, Pergamon, and several smaller states also began opposing Philip. What had begun as Rome versus Macedonia was slowly becoming a Greek civil war with Rome acting as its newest participant. Philip suddenly discovered he could not concentrate his army against one opponent. Every campaign demanded a new response. Every victory seemed to create another threat somewhere else. Into 14 BCE, the First Macedonian War officially erupted. Unlike the massive campaigns between Rome and Carthage, this war unfolded differently. There would be no single decisive battle. No clash involving 100,000 soldiers. Instead, the war became a struggle of raids, naval operations, sieges, political maneuvering, and shifting alliances. Roman fleets sailed along the Adriatic coastline, preventing Philip from crossing into Italy. Meanwhile, Philip marched rapidly across Greece, attempting to suppress rebellions before Roman allies could grow stronger. Neither side possessed enough strength to deliver a knockout blow, so both searched constantly for opportunities. Philip proved why many considered him one of the most capable kings of his generation. He moved with remarkable speed. Whenever one city rebelled, he appeared. Whenever another ally deserted, he responded. His soldiers captured strongholds, stormed fortified towns, and repeatedly frustrated Roman plans, yet every success carried a cost. Instead of invading Italy, Philip spent year after year putting out fires throughout Greece, exactly as Rome intended. Without realizing it, Philip had become trapped in a strategic war of attrition. The Romans were not trying to conquer Macedonia. They were buying time. Every month Philip remained occupied was another month Hannibal received no Macedonian army. Although Roman commanders won few spectacular victories, their strategy was working perfectly. Hannibal never received meaningful support from Macedonia. No large Macedonian fleet sailed into Italy. No Macedonian army crossed the Adriatic. Philip remained isolated. The alliance that had once frightened the Senate slowly lost its value. By forcing Philip to fight close to home, Rome had prevented two powerful enemies from combining their strength. Sometimes the greatest victories are not won on battlefields. Sometimes they are won by preventing battles from happening at all. After nearly a decade of inconclusive warfare, both sides had grown exhausted. Rome remained deeply engaged against Carthage. Philip faced increasing challenges throughout Greece. Neither wished to continue an expensive conflict producing little reward. In 205 BCE, representatives met at Phoenix. The resulting treaty largely restored the existing balance of power. Neither Rome nor Macedonia emerged as a clear victor. At first glance, the war seemed almost meaningless. No empire collapsed, no king was overthrown. No decisive battlefield changed history. But appearances can be deceiving. The First Macedonian War accomplished something far more significant. It introduced Rome into the politics of Greece. And once Rome entered Greek affairs, it would never truly leave. As the ink dried on the Peace of Phoenix, Philip V believed he had survived. Rome believed it had secured its eastern frontier. Both powers turned their attention elsewhere. But peace did not erase suspicion, it merely postponed the inevitable. Within a few short years, Philip would once again pursue expansion. Greek cities would once again call upon Rome. And the Republic, now victorious over Hannibal, would return with far greater strength than before. The next war would not end in stalemate. It would decide whether the Macedonian phalanx or the Roman legion would dominate the ancient battlefield. And that story begins in our next episode. The Second Macedonian War 201–96 BC. If you enjoyed this episode and want to follow Rome's incredible rise from a struggling republic to the master of the Mediterranean, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of the Macedonian Wars.